This is the BYD Dolphin, a Chinese supermini turned compact EV. Are car brands from China really a threat to players with established position in Europe? Let's find out. Let me explain the jump from B to C segment. The Dolphin started out as a China-only supermini. However, in order to meet European crash standards, it had to have its crumple zones extended. This meant extending the car by a dozen centimeters or so to 429. This puts the Dolphin in the same league as the MG4 or the Volkswagen ID.3. The Dolphin also has similar external dimensions to the Kia EV3. However, BYD stresses this is a compact hatchback rather than a B crossover like the recently launched BYD Atto 2, which is actually bigger than the Dolphin.
All this sounds rather complicated because despite being longer than the ID.3, the Dolphin is narrower than all the cars I mentioned above. As far as design is concerned, the Dolphin was drawn under the leadership of Wolfgang Egger, the same designer who worked for Alfa Romeo, Lancia and all over the VW group, including Audi and Lamborghini. Depending on the angle, I see a shrunk Chrysler Pacifica from the front, a bit of Seat Ibiza from the side, and the three-quarter rear is previous gen Hyundai i20. The rear head-on looks the most original, mainly thanks to the lighting motif. I don't want this to sound like criticism. It's hard to design a car to look like nothing else on the market. I recall the first BYD I saw in 2012. It was an electric people carrier called the E6 and it looked like Kia and Toyota in the early noughties had a baby. It wasn't pretty. Since then, BYD's design has made astronomical progress. And not just design, BYD is sometimes described as the biggest car company you've never heard of. It started as a manufacturer of batteries powering all the Nokias we carried around. However, these days BYD overtook long-time China car market leader Volkswagen, and in the last quarter of 2023 it even sold more EVs globally than Tesla. And something tells me this trend will continue, especially now.
And of course, BYD took advantage of the Chinese government subsidies, which is why its EVs are now levied additional 17% on top of the standard European tariffs.
Depending on the market, the Dolphin is offered in up to 4 trim levels and 2 powertrain options. There's the smaller and less powerful 44.9 kWh battery version and the larger and more powerful 60.4 kWh battery version. This is the latter powertrain in top trim. It has 204 horsepower and up to 427 km range in the combined cycle. As I'm testing it on the verge of February and March, the daytime temperature is below 10 degrees Celsius. I'm seeing around 400 km range combined.
That's assuming any motorway commute is no longer than a couple of dozen kilometers. On longer trips at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour, I estimate the range to be between 250 and 300 kilometers, depending on the speed and weather. It's fine for a city runabout, especially if fast charging is fast enough.
However, here we encounter a limitation. DC charging peaks at 88 kilowatts, which means charging from 10 to 80% takes 40 minutes. In 2025, this is subpar. On the plus side, the Dolphin is powered by LFP batteries, which are more efficient, more thermally stable, and more dense than older battery technology. BYD calls its setup Blade Battery. The whole unit is made up of relatively thin cells, which make better use of space.
The heat pump is standard on the Dolphin, which I'm sure helps boosting efficiency. However, the heating seems to be either badly designed or malfunctioning. In order to feel any warmth, I have to set the interior temperature to 28 degrees Celsius. That's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and this barely heats up the cabin. Seat warmers, on the other hand, are too powerful, even in the lower of the two settings.
The claimed 0 to 100 km/h time is 7 seconds. I checked and I was in high 7s in sport mode and 8 seconds in normal mode. The road was damp and the traction control intervened. By the way, it intervenes too late. Perhaps in the dry I would get a better result, but I don't think there's more than half a second to gain here. On the other hand, in the city the Dolphin has sufficient punch to nip into any space that opens up in traffic and to be among the first to take off from the lights.
The suspension is superb. I recently tested a Kia EV3 where the suspension was far too stiff in my opinion, probably to conceal the car's heft. The Dolphin, on the other hand, goes over bumps like a limousine. I have several bumpy roads and tram tracks around in my area, and nothing below a 7 Series or an S-Class can go over them with grace. Nothing except the BYD Dolphin. It's literally like an S-Class.
Visibility is terrible, especially the first impression is bad. Not only the A-pillars are thick and their base feels too high, but also the wing mirrors don't help. And in the rearview mirror I see a bit of the front seat headrests. This is not the right mirror for this car. I like that the 360 camera can be launched with a button on the steering wheel, but overall the visibility is so bad that in my opinion the 360 camera doesn't help much. I feel disoriented during parking maneuvers. Also, the parking sensors seem to be calibrated to warn at the very last moment. After a week with the Dolphin I'm gradually getting used to it, but for an urban compact hatchback, the Dolphin is really bad in this sphere. It's a shame because it's very maneuverable, but I'm afraid to take full advantage of its capabilities.
Up to about 90 km/h, soundproofing is sufficient. Above that speed, wind noise in the upper parts of the car starts to be noticeable. The undercarriage seems to be better sound insulated, but the wind noise is, in my opinion, annoying enough to avoid longer road trips. Also, the fast charging parameters don't help either. But most EV owners charge at home, where the bigger battery version can charge at 11 kilowatts AC and the smaller battery takes 7 kilowatts.
On the plus side, the driver aids aren't aggressive. Unfortunately, ISA is buried in the settings menu and disabling it requires 4 clicks and a scroll. Adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist work well enough, but then this is not your default road trip car, so these systems aren't critical in everyday use.
What is important in everyday use is regen braking and brakes in general. There are 2 regen settings, normal and high. In normal setting I can't really feel if there is any recuperation, and in high setting, yeah, there is some, but it's hardly one pedal driving. However, with regen set to high, I noticed an unpleasant transition from recuperation to friction braking. As you push the brake pedal, at first there is only regen braking, and only after crossing a certain threshold I feel as if regen braking is suddenly turned off and friction brakes are applied with force, which may cause you to stand on the brake pedal even harder, thus causing an unpleasant jerk. Once the friction brakes are applied, they work fine. I never felt the car having insufficient stopping power, so that part is okay. It's just the transition that doesn't work. The Dolphin interior, at least in this top trim I'm reviewing today, feels very expensive. This is the level of finish I'd expect from an Audi A1, BMW 1 Series or a Mercedes-Benz A-Class. Sure, the driver's display could be bigger and maybe have better graphics and display the data I want rather than keep going to the blind spot warning, but that's a minor gripe. The central display is of good quality, and for some reason it turns. BYD considers this to be such an important feature that it put a dedicated button on the steering wheel to turn the screen. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay work only in horizontal mode, and the screen will not turn until you exit from Android Auto to the main menu. So what's it turning for? I have no idea. Perhaps some apps available in China better work in landscape than portrait mode, or the other way around. Other simply clever stuff includes karaoke. Oh yes. This is the feature that none of the European brands understand, and they fear, and they have no idea why on earth would you do karaoke in a car. But I don't know. I'm sitting here on a meadow trying to find a USB port, which kind of tells us, okay, the mic's on. Is it? Oh yeah. Hello. Hi. So I'm going to sing for you today, and I'm going to do it with the screen in horizontal mode, because there's a polarizer filter on the other camera, so you wouldn't be able to sing along with me. But okay, so this one's hello. Yep, this one's by Billy Joel, the Piano Man, and you'll see if I can sing and if this mic is any good. I hope I'm not gonna get demonetized. I may have to cut this short later in edit. Okay, so I can only turn up the mic volume, but it doesn't seem to do much, so yeah. I don't know much about karaoke singing, but I think that this is not the best mic for it. Still, if you have nothing better to do while you're charging, and this is going to take a while, you can sing along to some popular tunes.
A more useful feature is access using an NFC card, which can replace your key to open and start the car, and it fits your wallet. Just like Tesla, but this car comes with a start button. Speaking of buttons, there are many, but for some reason the designers couldn't make up their mind whether these will be buttons or toggle switches, so they said yes to both. Most of these buttons toggles have to be pressed and flicked upwards. The gear selector and the volume knob have some texture, but everything else is smooth, so sometimes it's hard to get traction. Not to mention hitting two buttons at the same time. Another feature designed by someone who didn't know what they were doing are the air vents. They look great, but there is no indicator telling you whether they are opened or closed. There should be a marker on those nipples in the middle. And since the heating barely works, it's hard to tell if there's any air flowing through the air vents. The seats are comfortable, especially for integrated headrest type. I wouldn't mind lumbar support adjustment, and since the seats are electrically operated, where's the memory setting function? Under the screen is a tray for coins, and under the button toggles thing, there is a cubby with USB-C ports and a 12-volt outlet. There is no lockable storage under the armrest, only a difficult-to-access space. On the armrest is a wireless charger, and it's better than in most cars, meaning it fails me every several uses rather than working every several uses like in many other cars I review. The glove box is average size. The door pockets could be bigger, but my water bottle fits okay.
The rear door pockets are bigger than those in the front. Rear passengers also get an extra cup holder in the middle above two USB-C ports. There are no air vents, there is no ski hatch, the backrest splits 40-60, but there is an armrest with cup holders, and the floor is flat in the middle. There is also a lot of legroom and okay-ish headroom. There are 2 ISOFIX anchor points in the rear and 1 on the front passenger seat.
The boot volume is 345 liters, the parcel shelf doesn't fit under the double floor, the parcel shelf also keeps falling off the hinge and then it blocks the rear visibility. There are no shopping bag hooks, but at least with the floor in its upper position there's a flat loading area when you fold the rear seats. On the very bottom of the boot there is a small niche for a repair kit. The charging cable and the vehicle to load adapter take up space under the boot floor as there is no frunk. BYD has an app for the Dolphin, but I wasn't able to test it because the app can be configured for one user only, and in this case, it's the BYD press office. BYD Dolphin prices start at €32,990. This test car is the top design trim and it costs €34,990.
The BYD Dolphin turned out to be better than I expected, but poor visibility limits its city prowess and slow DC charging doesn't do it any favors outside the city. On the other hand, compared to the established European competition, the BYD has nothing to fear. And what do you think about the BYD Dolphin? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.